What happens when everything in your life falls apart and no one comes to rebuild it for you? No help, no recognition, no second chances, just ruins. Most people walk away. They leave the broken pieces behind and try to forget. But one man did something different. He stayed in a place everyone else abandoned, surrounded by collapsed stone, twisted metal, and memories no one wanted to face. He made a decision. If nothing can be saved, I'll build something new from what's left. And over time, what he created didn't just rebuild a place. It rebuilt something far more important. The place wasn't just physically destroyed. It carried weight, a history of failure, loss, pain. The kind of place people avoid not because it's ugly, but because it reminds them of something unresolved. Everyone else left. They moved on, pretended it didn't matter anymore. But the architect stayed, not because it was easy, but because he understood something most people don't. Ignoring the ruins doesn't erase them. They don't disappear. They follow you, in your thoughts, in your decisions, in the things you avoid building again. So instead of running, he walked deeper into the wreckage. Lesson: the parts of your life you try to avoid are often the exact places you need to rebuild. You don't heal by escaping your past. You heal by facing it and deciding what to do with it next. The first problem was obvious. There was nothing usable. Broken stone, rotting wood, shattered structures. No clean foundation, no proper tools, no blueprint. Most people would see that and think, this is impossible. But the architect saw something else. Not perfection, not potential. Pieces, fragments, possibilities. He picked up what others threw away. A cracked beam, a chipped stone, a bent piece of metal. Not because they were ideal, but because they were available. And that's how it started. Not with a grand plan, but with a simple idea. Use what you have. Lesson: you don't need perfect conditions to rebuild your life. You don't need everything figured out. You don't need to be ready. You just need to start with what's in front of you. Because progress doesn't come from perfect tools. It comes from using imperfect ones, consistently. At first, nothing looked impressive. The structures were small, unstable, fragile. Some even collapsed. But he didn't stop. Instead, he studied the failure. He adjusted, reinforced, tried again. He began to understand something deeper. Broken materials don't make weak structures. Poor design does. So he changed his approach. Instead of forcing pieces to fit, he let their shape guide the design. A cracked stone became support. A warped beam became an arch. Every flaw became a feature. And slowly, the structure stopped looking broken. It started looking intentional. Lesson: your past mistakes, failures, and scars are not limitations. They're building materials. If you try to hide them, you weaken yourself. But if you learn how to use them, they become the strongest parts of who you are. The real work wasn't visible. People might see the arches, the walls, the structure, but they didn't see the process. The long days, the physical exhaustion, the quiet frustration. There were moments he doubted everything. Moments where nothing worked. Moments where quitting made more sense than continuing. But no one was there to witness those moments. Because real transformation happens in private. He worked alone, cutting, lifting, carving, day after day. Not because he felt motivated, but because he made a decision to continue. Lesson: discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation fades, emotion changes, but discipline is what carries you through when nothing feels worth it. The work that changes your life is often the work no one sees. As the structure grew, something unexpected happened. The space began to feel different, not just physically, emotionally. Light entered through carefully placed openings. Shadows softened instead of darkening the space. The ruins no longer felt heavy. They felt calm, safe, intentional. And the architect realized something powerful. He wasn't just building a structure. He was shaping an experience, a feeling, a place where broken things could exist without being rejected. Lesson: your environment influences your mindset more than you realize. What you build around you, your habits, your routines, your space, shapes how you think and feel. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will be too. But if you build something intentional, you create clarity. At first it was personal, just a man rebuilding something for himself. But over time, people began to notice. They didn't come because they were invited. They came because they felt something, a sense of peace, a sense of meaning. Some stayed, some returned, some brought others. And without planning it, the sanctuary became something bigger. Not just a structure, but a refuge for people who felt lost, for people carrying their own ruins. Lesson: when you work on yourself, You don't just change your own life, you create something that others can learn from, be inspired by, or find comfort in. Real impact is rarely intentional. It's a byproduct of authenticity. The architect never chased attention, no announcements, no promotions, no audience, and yet his work spread. Not because he told people about it, but because it was real, because it mattered. Over time, people spoke about the place, visited it, learned from it, but the architect remained the same, quiet, focused, unconcerned with credit, because he understood something most people don't. Recognition is temporary, but what you build can last far beyond you. Lesson: your goal shouldn't be to be seen. It should be to create something meaningful, because true legacy isn't measured by how many people know your name, but by how long your impact lasts. Everyone has ruins, broken plans, failed attempts, things that didn't turn out the way they hoped. Most people walk away, they leave it behind and start over somewhere else. But what if, instead of running, you stayed? What if you looked at what's broken and asked, what can I build from this? You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need a clean slate. You don't need everything figured out. You just need to start with what you have, where you are, because every strong foundation, every meaningful structure, every lasting change begins the same way, with someone who refuses to let the ruins be the end of the story.